All right, so just to continue with what happened. So, long story short, my dad got the shoot away machine that messed up my shot. But of course, he didn't think that. He thought the shoot away machine was helping me. I thought the shoot away machine was helping me, because my dad thought, if you get the shoot away machine, you're going to get 500 shots a day. And that's what Michael Jordan did. And Michael Jordan, shot 500 shots a day. And that's what the great shooters will do. So I'll kind of just go over a little bit. So like I said, 7th grade. And I mentioned this because it's important, because my grandpa was saying that, my grandpa came, he lived in Kauai, but he came later. But my grandpa would later say, Ryan, because I tried to tell my grandpa, I was like, hey, grandpa, I figured out what happened. It was a shoot-away machine. I told him this after college. It was a shoot-away machine. And I wanted to say it was my dad, too. But my grandpa taught me, never blame anybody. Always take responsibility for everything. That's a part of his whole metapsychiatry stuff, is take responsibility for everything. Because in metapsychiatry, the original teacher, Dr. Horace, says that you do create everything. Like, you create your reality. But my grandpa kind of tones that down a little bit. But so basically, my grandpa's like, don't blame anybody. So I didn't want to blame my dad. I would just say, it was a shoot-away machine. So I'd say, hey, grandpa, I figured out it's a shoot-away machine. My grandpa's like, oh my gosh, it wasn't the shoot-away machine. It was because you were playing against bigger, better players. Because you were playing against bigger, better players, and that's why your dad beat you up. And that's what happened. It was because you were playing against bigger, better players, and you got frustrated, and you took your frustration out on your dad, and then your dad beat you up. Again, my grandpa always blamed. So my grandpa would be like, don't blame anybody. But he, I always saw him as a victim blamer. And like I said, I don't think my grandpa helped me at all. He actually made things 1,000 times worse for me. And I'll get to that. But yeah, and I kind of hated my grandpa because of that. But at the same time, I liked my grandpa because I learned a lot from him. But I feel like he was a terrible psychologist. He didn't help me at all. So, but I'll get to that. So my grandpa was living in Kauai at this time in the 7th grade. So, like I said, I'm shooting. My shot's messed up in the backyard, and to kind of just go over what happened with that was I mentioned this before. My dad has me picking the ball off of the rack, and picking the ball off the rack, I'm stepping like this because the rack's right here, so I have to step like this, and that's gonna make my left foot point forward and my right foot point forward, and I'm shooting like this. So that's what my dad said, I was shooting square. Now, if it wasn't for the shoot-away machine, that would have never happened, because I always just automatically would step back and then now make me sideways, and would kind of like go like that, or step back and step into it like this, or go like this and then step like this, and it would make me sideways when I shoot, right? It's all about how you move into it, but picking the ball off the shoot-away rack, I couldn't be sideways. I had to pick the ball off the rack and I would step straight forward, because I'm picking the ball off the rack and I step straight forward. So then my dad's telling me, okay, so this is 7th grade, so I'm shooting like this. So as I said, like in the 7th grade, my dad was yelling at me in the backyard. He's like, Ryan, what are you doing? You're shooting square. Like I said, I never had a problem. I was the best shooter in the country. I was the best player in the country. But I think the reason why my dad didn't understand was because I was also, at the same time, my dad was having me shoot overhead. Now, I have videos of me shooting overhead without the shoot away, and it looks great. But because I was shooting overhead, my dad was having me do something new. I think that he thought the reason why I was shooting bad was because I was shooting overhead. But I know if he would have just been passing to me and I'm moving into it naturally, I would have automatically just aligned to what was perfect, like always. I was unconscious. But because I was picking the ball off the rack, I was aligning to shooting the ball, picking the ball off the rack, which is going to make me shoot wrong, which is going to make me shoot square. So my dad's like, Ryan, what are you doing? You're shooting square. And I remember, this is 7th grade. And I remember, it was before the first day of Harvard Westlake. Harvard Westlake is one of the best schools in the country. And I went there. Like I said, I was the best at basketball, the best at every sport I did. And I was also a straight A student. Teacher's pet. Teachers always loved me. But so I'm this is the first day of school, right before the first day of school. I'm shooting in the backyard. My dad's yelling at me, Ryan, you're shooting square. Now, I didn't know that because, like I said, the reason why I was so good was because I was unconscious. I didn't think. And I mentioned that like my mom, and this is important that I mention this too, because my grandpa, later my mom and my dad and my grandpa make my sister into the wonderful one. Like, they're like, you know, my grandpa, like Leah's awesome. But no, my mom and dad hated Leah growing up. They hated my sister and they loved me. Like I said, I couldn't do anything wrong. I remember one time I broke a salt shaker and my mom started yelling at my sister because my mom thought my sister broke it. And then I said, Mom, I broke it. And then my mom was like, oh. And then she didn't yell at me. And I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, why did you yell at Leah, but you didn't yell at me? And my mom said, because you're a good boy, but Leah's not a good girl. So my mom always loved me. And my mom and dad loved me. And my mom went to my sister's games and my mom was like, Leah sucks. You know, she thinks too much. Ryan never thinks when he plays, you know. And my dad was like, yeah, Ryan doesn't think when he plays, but Leah thinks too much. But again, like that's ironically why I got messed up so bad, was because I never thought when I played. That's what made me so amazing. But when I'm picking the ball off the shoot away rack, I'm not thinking. And I didn't know, I never had any awareness of what I did. You know, my dad would always tell me shoot sideways, so I would shoot sideways when I shot. But I didn't know what I was actually doing. I would just kind of like I was unconscious, but I kind of conscious. Like I would shoot sideways, but I didn't actually know what I was doing. And that's the thing, is like I said, also, you know, my grandpa would later be like, why did you expect your dad to help you with your shot? Again, always making me into the bad guy. You know why? Your dad didn't know about basketball, trying to make me into the bad guy. No, my dad always helped me my whole life. He'd always tell me if there was anything. And that's the other reason why I never had to think, because my dad would always tell me, you know, like when I'm shooting, he would be like, Ryan, you're shooting too square. You know, shoot a little more sideways. Now, I didn't know what I was doing with my feet, but I would put my body more sideways. Now, I didn't know my left foot was pointed out and all that, but I'll get to that. So my dad, I did this unconsciously, but like I said, it was because of how I moved into it. My dad noticed that I shot good when I would be sideways. So I'd catch the ball and then be sideways. And then the rim would be right here and I'm sideways. But then picking the ball off the rack, I'm going like this. And I have to go like this because if I step like this, I'm gonna hit the rack. Or if I go like this, or if I go like this, like I used to, you know, that type of thing, I'm gonna hit the rack. So my dad, my dad was saying like, you know, he was upset with me, and I remember this was before the first day of 7th grade, and I started to scream because my dad's yelling at me, and I'm like, you know, I don't know, let me just shoot. I just want to shoot, and I started to scream. And now it's important that I mention this because, as I said, my grandpa would later be like, you know, just because you're playing against bigger, better players that the problems happen. But I'm telling you, no. And I later tried to tell my grandpa this, and I was like, Grandpa, how come the conflict started happening in the 7th grade when Dad got the shoot-away machine? That's when it happened. And that was before I was playing against bigger, better players, but I was never playing against bigger, better players. I was always the best. The only thing that happened was my shot got messed up because of the shoot-away machine, and it destroyed me. But, so I'm like, so this started happening in the 7th grade. And so there was conflict going on. So, and this is the other thing that I wanted to mention to my grandpa. He's dead now, but I wanted to mention to him about how in the 7th grade, so I'm shooting in the backyard and my dad is yelling at me, Ryan, you're shooting square. And I don't know what he's talking about. I don't, you know, I just shoot. I'm like, let me just shoot. I don't think. That's why I was so good, because I don't think. If my dad wouldn't have got the shooting machine, I would have stayed perfect, because I would have still been just not thinking and aligning to what's perfect. But because I'm picking the ball off the rack, I'm aligning to what was bad, because I had to shoot square. Because if you're picking the ball off the rack, you're going to step in a way that's going to make your feet like that. Whereas if I was just getting passes, I would have moved into it in the good way. So then my dad and mom took me to a psychologist. This is 7th grade. Like I said, I'm going to Harvard Westlake. I had straight A's. I'm at the best school in the country. Harvard Westlake is like the #1 school in the country, and I have straight A's there, and I'm a teacher's pet. Everything's going great, and I'm still the best basketball player, but my shot's getting messed up. And my dad and I are in conflict, and again, it's because my dad's yelling at me. Ryan, you're shooting square. And this is causing conflict. So we have conflict. So mom and dad take me to a psychologist. And this is crazy. And I remember my mom wanted me to start taking medicine because me and my dad were fighting in the backyard. Because I was yelling because my dad was yelling at me, and I was probably screaming and stuff. I was like, Dad, just let me shoot. So we go to the psychologist or we go to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist was like, dude, Ryan has straight A's. He's doing, he's the best on his basketball team. He's doing fine. Like, to put him on medicine would not be a good idea. Now, this is the other ironic, interesting thing is my mom, I remember growing up, like I said, I was the best at basketball. I was the number one. I won an A national championship. Coaches said I was the best they'd ever seen. I would be the best player in California in high school. And these are the biggest coaches who coached NBA players. So, basically, yeah. So my shot got messed up. And then my dad's saying, you're shooting square, and that's basically all that happened. So then, yeah, but so the psychiatrist is like, it's not a good idea to put him on medicine. He's doing fine, but yeah. So I was saying the ironic thing was my mom. I remember we were watching a movie one time when I was younger, and in the movie, the parents were forcing the kid to take medicine. And my mom said something to me like, yeah, some parents do that. They're really evil. They're really bad people. Now, this is the other thing. My grandpa would tell me that my mom was always a name caller and always immature, but I didn't realize this, so I'm going to get to this. My mom's like, yeah, those people are evil, people who make their kids take medicine. But then my mom ended up becoming, so anybody who's thinking like, oh, yeah, this could happen to anybody. My mom was against that. And then she ended up being for it. And again, it wasn't my fault. It was because of the shoot-away machine and my dad screwing it up. So this is 7th grade. So we take the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist was like, it's not a good idea to make him take medicine. He's got straight A's. He's doing good. And everybody loved me. I didn't have any behavioral problems. And that's the thing is, people are going to assume, and I'm going to get to this, how people later assumed that I deserved being beat up and stuff. No. And when I would try to tell people it was the shoot-away machine, people would say to me, what are you talking about? But I couldn't explain because I didn't want to make people think about the shot. I wanted to explain online. So people are going to assume the worst. They're going to assume that I deserved it. No. It was a shoot-away machine, and like I said, I was perfect. I was getting straight A's, everything, the teacher's pet, everybody loved me. It wasn't anything wrong with me. It was my parents. And then later when I would go to the psychiatrist, after I graduated college, the psychiatrist, that's what they said. They said, because my parents were trying to make me take medicine and stuff. And the psychiatrist told my parents, they're like, no, Ryan, it's not the problem. He has family issues. He doesn't have a mental illness like you guys want to think. He has family issues. So anyways, back to what happened. So this is 7th grade. My dad's saying, Ryan, you're shooting square. What's wrong with you? And then my mom's going to my games. This is 8th grade. And my mom's like, Ryan, you're a shooter. What's wrong with you? Get your fucking head together. Actually, that was in high school. That was in 9th grade when it happened. At this point, my mom was just like, like I said, the varsity coaches came to my game in the 8th grade. And the varsity coaches, and I had 30 points that game, but my shot was really messed up. So then my mom was like, and my dad was kind of upset after the game. My mom was like, Ryan's not going to play varsity shooting like that, huh, Paul? Is that why you're upset? And my dad was like, But it was because of the shoot-away machine. And like I said, at that time, my only shot that was decent was, because I'm picking the ball off the rack, I'm stepping like this, and it's making me shoot with my left foot forward, because if I'm picking the ball like this, whereas before, if I'm picking the ball, if I'm going like this, or I'm stepping back and then stepping to the side and then shooting, it's going to make me sideways like my dad wanted. So I'm picking the ball off the rack and I'm going like this, and that's going to make my left foot go like this, because you're picking the ball off the rack and you're stepping straight forward, as opposed to before where I would step to the side, or I would go like this and I would step to the side, or I would, but that's just based off getting passes. And if there's a rack protruding you, you're going to be stepping like this. You're going to pick the ball off the rack and you're going to step like this. It's going to make you shoot square. So I'm shooting like that over and over again. And I think, you see, what happened was my dad just let it be. Because, you know, I think what my dad thought was, I think he just thought I was shooting overhead and, you know, maybe my shot is just going to be more square now. I don't know. But my dad screwed it up with the shoot away machine. So then, like I said, then in the 9th grade, my dad didn't even go to my first game playing varsity because my dad didn't think I was going to play varsity because my shot was messed up. But then I ended up becoming the starting point guard on varsity. So then my dad's all happy. He's like, oh, he's the starting point guard. So my whole life, my dad went to every one of my games. My dad was always in the stands like, oh, buddy, yeah, oh, good shot, oh, you know, in the stands all excited, and because I was the best. So then my dad goes back, starts going to my games. But my dad sit in the stands, he'd be all quiet. And he'd be watching me. But like I said, my mom went to my first varsity games. I was a starting point guard, and we won the CIF championship. And we're at Harvard Westlake, one of the best schools in the country. So, but my mom goes to my first game, and my mom was like, after the game, my mom was like, Ryan, you're a shooter, you're a scorer, what's wrong with you? She's like, you're a scorer, what's wrong with you? And the thing was, you know, she's like, you know, she was saying, you're like, get your head together. But the thing was, it wasn't my fault. Again, it's because I was practicing on the shoot away machine. So at this time, I'm still shooting like this. I mean, I would get the ball, I would catch the ball, or sometimes I wouldn't even move into it. I would just catch it and shoot like this. I'd catch it and shoot like this. Because that's how I practice, just picking the ball off the rack. Whereas, like I said before, when I would practice with my dad would just pass me in the backyard, I would catch it and move into it like this, and, you know, catch it and move into it like this, and you know, be doing that stuff. But here I'm just catching it and shooting like this. Is he? So that messed up my shot. So yeah. So basically, so then my mom's yelling at me, you know, what, Ryan? What's wrong with you? You know, you're shooting terrible. And so then my dad was like, my dad was yelling at my mom. My dad was like, Ryan, Marley, he's playing fine. He's playing fine. He's doing fine. Because I was a starting point guard on varsity, and I was dribbling well. Everything else is good. So was there something wrong with me? No, it was a shoot away machine. My mom was like, "What's wrong with you, Ryan? You can't handle the pressure." So my mom ended up, and that's gonna be important for later, because in my mom's mind, she's thinking Ryan can't handle the pressure, and my mom would later think, oh, you know, after my mom would later believe, oh yeah, Ryan started becoming mentally ill, and that's what happened to him. No, it was a shoot away machine, and it was my dad telling me to do the wrong thing. So, you know, then as I said, I'll get to what happens next, but yeah, I'll get to what happens in high school next.